Hi, my name is Julia Sage. I'm a social worker and psychotherapist with the counseling group at Jewish Family Services of Ottawa. Today, I'm here to talk about a topic that affects us all: stress and emotion. So, let's first talk about the CBT model and how increasing our awareness of our emotions can help us with our stress reactivity. So first and foremost, what is CBT? So CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It is a therapy that really understands that it's difficult to shift your feelings. Have you ever felt a certain way and just tried to tell yourself to maybe stop feeling angry or stop feeling depressed, and in this case, to just stop stressing out? It's not easy to change the way we feel. So in CBT, the way in is really through, as you see in this model, trying to shift something in the other areas of the diagram. So you might focus on shifting your thoughts or changing your behavior. So how you respond or what you do in response to a particular situation that you identify causes you stress. So as you can see today, we're going to focus on the emotions part of the model. I really like this idea that if we can develop awareness of our emotional experience, we can really become better at accessing more skillful decisions for ourselves. So today, let's focus in on emotions and the relationship of emotions with our stress. So just take a moment to think about, what is your relationship like to your emotions? Some of us have really learned over time to push away or ignore our emotions. And for some of us, we may get really emotionally involved or cling to emotions. And really recognizing that our relationship with our emotions can shift and change over time. So the idea here is that if we can increase our awareness about how we feel, we can really begin to understand that in fact our emotions can give us really important information. And so a good place for us all to start is really just to increase our skill in being able to identify our emotions. And this basic premise that there are other emotions or moods that often underlie our stress. So if we dig a little bit deeper, we might see that underneath this stress, for example, are emotions such as sadness or anger. So just taking a moment just to reflect on what is causing you stress right now in your life. What are the things that you find stressful? What are the things that are contributing to your current level of stress? And then think for a moment about, how do you typically cope with your emotions? How do you cope with your stress, your anxiety, your worry, your anger, your sadness, and even your joy? How do you tend to see your emotions or meet your emotions? And just acknowledging and naming that. So this is what is called a feelings wheel, and there's many different tools out there that you can use to help you to identify your emotions at any given time. I really like this visual. I use it often in my work with clients, particularly for folks who have a hard time identifying what their feelings are. And how this works is you can start at the inner part of the circle and identify the different areas of emotion, the themes of emotion, and then work your way out. This will help you become more specific about naming the different emotions that can co-occur together, and that might be underlying your current stress. So take a moment using the feelings wheel to circle or name the emotions that you tend to feel throughout your day. Thinking particularly about the past few days or weeks. And if you can't find an emotion on the wheel, feel free to add one. So I'll go back to the feelings wheel. And I also have a link to the image source. It's feelingswheel.com. So what do we do after we identify our emotions, after we've increased our awareness of our emotional needs? So the idea is that you can actually use the awareness of your emotions for many different things, but today we're going to focus on using our emotions particularly as a cue to solve a problem. Especially if we notice recurring emotions in similar situations that are possibly giving us information or cues about something we could change. And I really like this diagram. And so the fact is that many of us avoid dealing with our problems, especially if they're a source of distress. It's human to try to avoid situations that cause us distress, especially if we perceive them as a threat. But the problem is if we wait to solve problems when they first occur, they can sometimes become bigger problems with time. And this, of course, contributes to our overall experience and level of stress. So as you can see in the diagram, you have the problem. You perhaps see it as overwhelming, and so you avoid doing something about it, and then this contributes to the stress. And then the problem pops up again, and you get frustrated, maybe that you didn't do anything about it or that it keeps coming up. And again, it feels maybe too overwhelming. And so you put it off and keep going. And of course, this is to just acknowledge and name that this is a pattern that many of us get caught up in. And so the idea of using problem solving as a tool in a structured way is to think about doing something different. So what if we shifted our way of looking at problems and instead saw them as opportunities? So maybe right now you can think of some negative emotions that are currently showing up for you or have recently been showing up for you, and that may be pointing to a problem that you could start working towards solving that could help you perhaps manage better in the long term. So what negative emotions could be indicating to you that there perhaps is an opportunity to try something different? So here's a quick overview of the problem-solving steps. Number 1, identify the problem. Number 2, brainstorm. Identify all the possible solutions. In this step, you really want to take your time to allow yourself space to come up with as many possible solutions as you can. You can include silly, unrealistic, and maybe even potentially unhelpful situations. The idea is that the more things you write down, the easier it gets to come up with other possible solutions. You can also think about what you might tell a friend or someone close to you if they were struggling with a similar problem. Number 3, evaluate. I'm just going to take the time to go back to all those brainstorming ideas, cross out ones that aren't going to be realistic or possible, and then think about the pros and cons of each particular solution. I like to give each solution a rating on a scale of 0 to 100, and trying to objectively as possible think about what percentage it is likely to work. And then you're going to rank your different solutions and finally select one. And you'll create a plan to try it out. If it's a more complicated type of solution, you may have to set up numerous steps. And then, of course, step 6 is review. This is where you're going to check in and see if your problem solving worked, or if you need to go back and to number 4 and select a different solution. Remembering that some problems actually have multiple different problems within them. So the really important part, I think, is in step 1 to really break down those problems that might be a little bit more complex and break them down into individual different problems, and then working through all the different steps for each part of those or each of those micro problems, so to speak. So take some time now on your own to really work through this structured and intentional way of working through a problem. You might want to hit the pause button and take some time to practice your problem solving now. Thank you for joining me today for this segment on stress and emotions. Let's review. We explored together that increasing our awareness of emotions can be helpful. They can give us important information. So a good place for us all to start with is skills, even just in identifying our emotions throughout our day. We can then use our emotions as a cue to solve a problem. And remembering that it's oftentimes that due to stress, we avoid dealing with problems. And so if we can shift our thinking to seeing problems as opportunity to create change, can be really helpful, because when problems aren't dealt with, they can become bigger problems over time. So this is one part of a 4-part video series on stress management. And so for more resources on how to manage your stress and other tools for increasing your well-being, please visit our websites, jfsottawa.com and thecounselinggroup.com. And may you be well, and most of all, may your stress be well managed.